Greetings, everyone. My name is Loki Karuna. I'm the Director of Artist Equity for the American Composers Orchestra, and it's my pleasure to be here with Grammy-nominated violinist Curtis Stewart. Curtis, thanks so
What's
much for
up?
being here.
Yeah, happy to be here. Yep.
You know, you're so much more than just a Grammy nominee. You're officially a Sphinx Medal of Excellence recipient. You have premieres happening all over the place. Your star is really shining. I wonder what this moment means to you, this moment in your career. What does it say to you about the road up to this point and the path that you see ahead for yourself?
It means I need to keep doing the work that I have been doing. I've been creating according to my vision, but also according to how I can see the little building blocks fit into place. Both challenging what classical musicians can do and with how they think of themselves, but also attempting to find ways to speak their language so that it feels like going into these potentially unknown territories is fun and doable as opposed to daunting. Also, I mean, it's just creating audio and working in a DAW and presenting that music in that way, I think seems to be working at the moment. I think it means I just need to sink my teeth in, dig my heels in, and just keep working and putting stuff out, just to keep that momentum going. So it's not just a year or 2 year thing that's happening personally.
I love your use of the word challenge. It makes me think about ACO's commitment of disruption or commitment to disrupt. I wonder, in your role at ACO as artistic director, how do you define disruption and what do you think is the most effective way for us to execute that disruption we're looking for?
I think of disruption as making space for yourself as an artist by any means necessary, or by whatever means you find ownable. So like there's so many things that an institution can put. Oh yeah, let's add video to this. Oh, let's add this to this. An institution can ask an artist to do so much that feels like they are disrupting what the institution knows to be the norm, but that doesn't mean that the artist feels they can own those things. So for me, it means finding. I remember when I first started writing, I would write with the blues and improvisation in mind, and I would be very timid about it, and I would be scared to share that with people. But I realized that the improvisation part is it's not the problem at all. Part of the problem really is hearing and owning the music. So having some type of audio reference, having words that connect to training that those players already have. That is the disruption that I try to accomplish uh, through notation. But I also have the means to do that because I have the ACO gig to kind of support the creation of those materials. So I think for every artist, it means making space for yourself, and whatever you're knowing who you are and making space for that person in classical music, whether you think it's already there or not. And there is a way to make it happen, I think. And so for ACO, what that means is really listening to an artist and figuring out who they are, what they mean, when they are actually trying to simplify their art form for us because they think of an orchestra a certain way, and just pushing them and like just making it okay for them to challenge us to change, and challenge us to find the support and funds to make that vision happen and find ways of explaining that stuff to other partners to make it happen around the country. So I think disruption for us involves making space for artists by whatever means necessary.
Yeah, cultivating that genuine engagement. I love that. And speaking of the ACO gig, as you've put it, you're about to approach 2 years as the artistic director of the American Composers Orchestra. Before we talk about the upcoming concert, I wonder if there's anything that you can share about your own learnings when it comes to programming or when it comes to collaborating with artists in general. What have these almost 2 years taught you?
Well, I just realized that there's a difference between imagining and the realization of things, and the questions I need to ask um, repeatedly over time to try to bridge to make those two things more in line. Sometimes an artist doesn't necessarily know exactly all the details that would go into what would make their experiment or imagining happen. And so me trying to ask questions and pull out details in a way that feels creative and fun as opposed to daunting, so that we can prepare with enough time in advance to make things happen on the institutional side. I think that's the biggest learning curve for me. Um, and also that, that that an artist can feel like they're moving in a space of unknown, and we can support that. We just have to know what the unknowns are so that we can be prepared. And that'll hopefully give them freedom so that when they're in sessions, like in our collaboratory sessions, experimental sessions, we have the flexibility in that moment to make anything happen, or as much happen as we possibly can. So that's been my learning curve, and also just the interaction between just years. I mean, the ACO has been around. Like in public quartet, we want to commission somebody, we do it, it happens. In my own work, I like somebody's work, I find the score, I buy it, and I play it. In ACO, we have so many commitments from years past, so many awesome projects. It's like it's just crazy the matrix of things that have to happen together. So that's another big learning curve. And that ACO is both me, but also ACO's past and so many iterations. So having to represent all that stuff at the same time is new.
One foot in the arts, one foot in the
Yeah,
administration.
that's right.
Well, how about you go ahead and walk us through the program that's coming up at Zenkel later in a few weeks now?
Yeah, so we got first up is Kebra San Charles, who's written an amazing bass concerto for themselves. It combines Baroque with gospel and Prokofiev. There's a little bit of stomp clap that Kebra grew up in the Black church, and so they want to incorporate that spirit. So the audience and the players on stage are encouraged to react as one might in a ring shout or in church or something. And so that's all notated in. And we had several collaboratory sessions to get the orchestra moving in that direction towards authenticity. Because we're not everybody grew up in that church, but it's and in fact, one of our players spoke up. There was a moment where people were getting very technical, and one of the players from ACO actually spoke up and gave this awesome feeling of both weight and spiritual heft, just by their own experience in the church. And suddenly everybody kind of linked in and started doing it. So I'm really excited about that. Mark Grigic is playing the guitar concerto written by Michael Abels, Pulitzer Prize winning composer, called Borders. Mark is from the Balkans, and he experienced some of the wars down there firsthand. And this piece is based on artwork by an artist from that area, also documenting the wars of that region. We have Victoria Poleva, who is a Ukrainian composer. We are adopting her for this concert since she currently has no national home. Played by Imbal Sejev, a great cellist. And Paul Novak is one of our Earshot Underwood readings commission recipients. He's writing a piece called Forest Migrations, which maps the movement. So I don't know if you know this, but forests kind of move as climate change happens. Forests naturally move so that they survive. So forests migrate much like humans do. So the whole program is called Borders, New Virtuoso Borders. The idea of borders is we're interrogating, each one of these pieces interrogates the idea of the separations between countries, ecological borders, genre borders, personal borders. So each one of these pieces kind of interrogates that. And the idea is so a lot of borders are necessary for our lives. We think of borders I think of them as negative initially, but a lot of these borders are necessary for our lives. Boundaries are great. But a lot of the times the way we maintain those borders involves harm, unnecessary harm. So my thought here is, how can we virtuosically, as the new virtuosos of this time, maintain borders and with the least harm, unnecessary harm.
Well, it sounds like a very moving program,
We'll
literally
see.
and
Yeah,
figuratively.
literally moving. Nice.
Well, I do know that this program is likely a part of your larger vision for ACO, maybe even your larger vision for the orchestral industry across the Americas. I wonder if you could speak to how this program fits into your larger visions.
So I'm there's kind of two for our Carnegie Hall program for our concert programming. We normally get these two concerts a year. Um, I think of there's two kind of ongoing programs that I'm working on. One is called New Virtuoso, which focuses in on composers and players who defy genre norms on their instrument, and so in thereby becoming virtuosos and doing things that nobody really can do on their instrument, including the orchestra as an instrument. If someone is an orchestral focused composer, so
Wonderful.
that's New Virtuoso, and that's something I've grown up with. My dad is a virtuoso tuba player. He had reclaimed his spot in jazz bands of Dizzy Gillespie and McCoy Tyner as the bass line function, which the tuba was an original function of bass and jazz, and he on a technical level was able to do this thing that really nobody else is able to do. And so he became a new virtuoso of that instrument. And so I'm kind of taking that idea and extending it into the orchestral realm. The other side is looking for music that is open and available to question our social questions in America. And so the program is called Hello America. And the idea is what are these conversations that are pertinent right now in our times, and how can music engage with that um, in a meaningful, impactful, and thoughtful way.
When you talk about these social dialogues and these social questions, I can't help but to think about the diversity represented on this concert. We have Black composers, we have a queer composer, we have music that engages current events, as you were speaking about the Ukrainian musician. There's lots of diversity on the program, but I think as an industry by and large, we're still struggling with seeing that same level of diversity within the audience.
Mm.
As ACO's artistic director, I wonder what your ideas are on how ACO can continue to strive for the diversity of audiences that you're able to put on the stage, that same level of diversity.
Well, the only way I can think about that is even just tiny successes I've had in the past. I remember just doing a concert with the Oregon Symphony, and it was just a version of Love, that my album, with them. And there were these two folks who had never been to an orchestra concert. They happened to be both Black, and they happened to. I was at the bar after the concert, and they came up to me and they're like, "I've never been to a symphony concert. What were you doing? What was this? What was that?" And they were just so interested and curious, and there was a personal story happening and unfolding during that concert. So I think they felt like they could approach me. Um, and really, what I wish we could do is survey everybody who's come to concerts and just ask where they saw the concert. Like, where do they see the the I think it just would require data analysis and like another person on our team really thinking about who is there and why they got there. Why did they take the chance to come? Because if there's anybody that's coming to a concert new for the first time, uh, there's a reason they took that chance. That was a big leap. And then in a lot of industries, there's a whole science to creating returning customers. Like that's a whole thing. So in marketing, so I think it would require asking questions in a marketing way that don't make that the person that you're asking feel pigeonholed already. So which is tough. I really have no idea. I hope that the two people I spoke to at that concert in Oregon go to another Oregon Symphony concert, and I hope they are satisfied at that second concert they go to. But I can see how one or either of those things would never happen because the outreach after the concert doesn't happen. So maybe it's possible that just from a data way, we can make that happen. There's the normal outreach version where you go out but ACO is already kind of doing that and it seems like outreach itself doesn't really work. Like you go out and then people just stay out. And so I think it has to do with who did come and then who is already returning, and then how can you maximize that? Um, yeah, how do you get them to click the survey email? Maybe it's a free ticket to the next thing. Maybe it's, some type of spotlight thing. Maybe it's based on the story. It would mean programmatic. The program would have to have some personal or story quality to it that the returning listener would want to tap into. So yeah, how do you get them to even click on the survey is a big question. So unfortunately, I don't have as artistic director of ACO, I do not have answers, unfortunately.
Well,
But I have a lot of questions for the potential experts, which is marketing, PR, data analysts, who I think could help quite a bit.
yeah, I think those are some excellent answers and some excellent suggestions and questions for all of us to explore. You're talking about engagement and dialogue, especially post concert dialogue. If someone walks up to you following this upcoming concert, what drink should they have in their hand?
Well, that depends on them. If they're
For
uh,
you, I'm asking.
for me, oh, what drink should they be have in hand to give me, or have in hand to
Yes,
talk to me?
yes. Out of congratulations, of course.
Gotcha. Well, I'm trying to drink less. I mean, there's I guess a let's see, what drink should they have in hand? Diet Coke. Let's go with Diet Coke. That's the PC answer.
Well, you heard it, everyone. Diet Coke for Curtis Stewart following the concert. Hope that each and every one of you will join us on October 30th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern at Carnegie Zenkel Hall. Music by Michael Abels, Kebra Sayun Charles, Paul Novak, Victoria Paleva, and Curtis Stewart. You can find more information on our website, americancomposers.org. Curtis, congrats again, and thank you for spending the time with me today.
Yeah, always.